Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, family and friends, I'm really delighted to be given the opportunity to take on the role of President of the Royal Town Planning Institute. It's an honour and a privilege, and I will endeavour to represent the interests of the Institute and the planning profession to the best of my ability. But first of all, let me once again pay tribute to Stephen Wilkinson, who's been a superb ambassador for the profession as President during 2017. Stephen has taught me an immense amount during my warm-up year as Vice President, and his theme of social justice I thought was particularly apt. We seem to inhabit a much more divided society nowadays, whether between richer or poorer, north and south, or remaining versus leaving. We need to address all these tensions and other inequalities if we're going to tackle social injustice. So I hope that your moral compass will help you in that direction and guide you in your future career. During Stephen's year, we've been able to shine a light on the question of social mobility and reset our moral compass, so to speak. So I'm hugely grateful to Stephen. Thank you. I'd also like to thank our dedicated and committed staff, and especially our outstanding Chief Executive, Trudy Elliott, who's led the Institute over the last 7 years. Some of you will have been at the General Assembly earlier and heard Stephen's very witty speech about Trudy, and I thought that was absolutely spot on. I've been immensely impressed with Trudy's mastery of planning and her stewardship of the Institute. I've enjoyed working with her during my time in the West Midlands region and more recently at national level, and she's been a great help to me as I prepare for this role. But as many of you will know, Trudy will sadly be leaving the Institute in April to explore pastures new. However, I'm very sure that our paths will cross over the years to come. And may I say, Trudy, although this may seem a little bit premature, although not after the discussion earlier, I wish you every success in the future. We will all miss you. But the RTPI does not let the grass grow under its feet, and we're very fortunate to have attracted Victoria Hills to serve as our Chief Executive. Some of you will have seen the news issued last Monday week about her appointment. Victoria currently heads the Old Oak and Park Royal Development Corporation, and I'm delighted that she's joined us today. So Victoria, I would like to warmly welcome you in advance to the Institute, and I very much look forward to working with you when you join the RTPI in April. I was acutely aware in preparing for today that you only get one chance to deliver an inaugural speech. There's no second bite of the cherry. But I can tell you I've received some really valuable advice from many of the past presidents who've kindly spoken to me over the last few months. One warned me I would become a different person. Another said I should just be myself. A third promised me it would be the most exciting year of my life. Whereas a fourth said it would be the most exhausting of my career. Probably all these will be true. However, I received one tip from the President, and sadly he can't be here today, that I should use my name to my advantage. Like those well-known weather forecasters, Sarah Blizzard and Neil Sleet, I belong to that very special club who have surnames who are ideally suited to their jobs. But being called Acres has other advantages too, as I'm sure my brother, who is in the audience, will confirm. You are always top of every delegate list, something I've done my best to exploit over the years. But on the downside, at school, being top of the list, you knew you were always likely to be picked first. So I soon learned to volunteer before I was selected. And thankfully, that willingness to step forward and volunteer has stayed with me all my life, and is probably partly why I'm here today. But one thing I've learned during my career is that the more you learn, the more you realise there is to learn. One of the past presidents has suggested that I should convene an informal group of colleagues who I can call on to act as a sounding board for advice. This seems a really good idea to me, and so that's what I've done. It will help supplement the valuable support I know I will receive from Institute staff, and I feel it's critical that we can all learn from each other. It's all part of lifelong learning. My late mother used to have a saying which she apparently borrowed from a 19th century Danish philosopher, Søren Kierkegaard, who said that life must be lived forwards but can only be understood backwards. And to be honest, as I move into what many football pundits describe as the final third of my life, I now know exactly what she meant. So let me tell you a bit about my background in planning. And some of you will have had a sneak preview of this in a planning magazine, so do bear with me. For others, this will be new ground. As a planner, I wish I could tell you honestly that my journey to becoming RTPI president was carefully planned. I can assure you it wasn't. Born in Clapham, here in London, our family moved to Hampshire in 1961, when my father's job as a civil servant, responsible for running the 1961 census, shifted to a military base near Winchester. Apparently it was the only place with a computer large and sophisticated enough to handle a volume of data in a national census. In fact, this was the first time that the results of a census had actually been processed on a computer. Of course, you could probably capture all the information these days just on a mobile phone. But around 10 years later, having grown up near Southampton, and now reaching the end of my grammar school career, I was desperate to get into transport planning, which particularly fascinated me, and to move back to London. And by sheer good fortune, I saw an article in the Daily Telegraph with a banner headline, "Indian takes over London's traffic plans," something which I'm sure would have shocked many Daily Telegraph readers at the time. I still have the clipping here. Here it is. I kept that for 25 years. No, 30, 45. I thought I was younger than I was then. It has a picture of Mr. Tiger Jaran, the new Chief Transport Planner at the Greater London Council, sitting at his desk, smoking a pipe. Evidently his job was then worth £7,000 a year. Impressive. So I wrote to him personally and I asked him how I could get to his position, pointing out that I'd been offered a place at Newcastle University, but I was born in London and I would like to have a hand in shaping his future. To his credit and to my advantage, he immediately sent me details of the GLC training school for aspiring planners. And to cut a long story short, on the 18th of September 1972, I walked up the steps of County Hall, just across the river from here, as a young planning trainee, earning £912 a year, including London waiting. Now, there are 3 other entrants on the same GLC 6-year day release course with me, and I'm delighted to say that all 3 of them are here today. The first time we got together for nearly 40 years, so well. Many people said to me at the time, working while studying was doing it the hard way. But for me, it was ideal, earning whilst learning. We thought we were so much more practical, grounded, and dare I say it, mature than the full-timers. And to be honest, we were. As trainees, we moved round to a different planning division within the GLC every year, learning new skills and gaining experience. And bizarrely, I even found myself dealing with my own father at the census office on the other end of the phone while I was in the population studies section. So fast forward to the present day, and the RTPI's new apprenticeship scheme is a very similar initiative. And I warmly welcome this, and I'm delighted it's getting so much support from employers. So, as a glutton for punishment, after the end of the 6-year course, I then went on and did a master's degree at London University, again on a part-time basis. It stretched me, inspired me, and made me think outside the box. Now, history has a funny habit of repeating itself, and in 1981, still whilst working for the GLC, I applied to become the census officer for Clapham, where I'd lived, with a team of 2 assistants and 50 enumerators. It was my first experience of managing a team, and I found myself dealing with all the difficult cases the enumerators couldn't handle, meeting people house to house who didn't want to cooperate with the census or maybe had something to hide. It was a real eye-opener in terms of people's housing conditions and lifestyles. It was a tense time, conducted during the infamous 1981 Brixton riots, and one of my enumerators' flats was burnt to the ground, and all the forms went too. So another mini-census had to be done a week or so later. It wasn't easy, but I learned a huge amount. Now, housing, and especially housing problems, emerged as my most pressing interest. And later that year, I was appointed Assistant Manager at the newly formed National Mobility Office. It was set up to help people, especially council tenants, move home to take up jobs elsewhere or to link up with or support their families, overcoming the stifling local residency requirements which often stop people from moving. And it was my role to travel the country to promote the scheme, the local authorities and the housing associations, and to monitor its success. And I loved it. But probably my most challenging and yet most satisfying role, though, was managing multidisciplinary teams to tackle general improvement areas and housing action areas in what then the most deprived parts of London, Mile End and East Dulwich. And I occasionally go back to see how they've changed, and I can tell you they are now much more prosperous. We've improved London's decaying housing, helped to give people better living conditions, and held those communities together. And I think working with people, for people, is probably the most satisfying aspects of planning. But improvement areas only have a limited lifespan, and so in 1988, now with a young family, I moved out of London and took up the Regional Land and Planning Officer role with the House Builders Federation in Birmingham, over in the Midlands. The HBF is a magnificent bridge between the public sector and the private sector, and it is so important for the private sector to work with local authorities in strategic and local planning. And I feel it's a tragic shame when the regional and effectively strategic planning was abolished in 2010. And of course, it's now having to be reinvented. The HBF always had a never say no attitude towards promotion and publicity. And during this time, I made valuable contacts and built lasting friendships on all sides of planning, some of whom are here today. So again, welcome. It was then that I became much more closely involved in the RTPI West Midlands region, something which lasted for the next 25 years, relaunching and then editing the regional magazine Tripwire. Again, building contacts, learning about aspects of planning which were well outside my experience and comfort zone. After 10 years with the HBF house builder, Redrow approached me and I completed the transition from gamekeeper to poacher. Here I experienced the real world of housing, not just planning, but building those much needed homes, as as well as learning how to sustain a business. Planning for most clients, companies and communities is a means to an end, not just an end in itself. Planning provides a service to UK PLC, and it needs to remain relevant and responsive. We all need to bear in mind that it is the builders working in partnership with local government who actually deliver the new homes and who make things happen. The presumption in favour of sustainable development may be the golden thread which runs through the planning process, but equally we're now told that there is no silver bullet to solve housing problems. So I gradually developed my skills in 10 years with Redrow, and then later with developer Catesby, especially in public engagement, applications and appeals to deliver those homes that we all need. In fact, I found that managing appeals puts all your planning skills to the test. Preparation, presentation, negotiation, reasoning and judgment. And I still do. For the last 5 years or so, I've run an annual day-long mock inquiry tutorial with Number 5 Chambers, and I always get pleasure out of seeing those young planners get the taste of experience of the real inquiry forum. But I always felt I was lacking in private consultancy experience, and so the last chapter, before I set up on my own, was moving to Consultants Turley to boost the residential business in Birmingham. And in doing so, I earned a proud title of Planning Anorak of the Year, which I think was due to my preoccupation with keeping lots of old plans and maps. Somewhat unexpectedly, it also gave me the opportunity to join Bob May, Turley's Head of Corporate Social Responsibility, in going out to Sierra Leone with a team of planners to play our small part in building a new school in Freetown, where we learned more about the real power of planning to change people's lives in the third world. And I'm pleased to say, last autumn I had the honour of awarding Bob with an RTPI fellowship in Manchester. So, well done to Bob. I think he may be here, I'm not sure. In April this year, Britain will be hosting the Commonwealth Heads of Government Conference here in London, and I know the RTPI will be playing a key role in this. And I see this as a unique opportunity for us to learn more from other countries and for them to learn from us. It's so important to collaborate between other countries. We don't have all the answers. So, enough about me. Let's talk about the year ahead. What can I do as an ambassador for the Institute during 2018? Well, I can see 3 main areas where I can contribute to the Institute during the coming year. Firstly, I want to use my experience in the public, private and voluntary sector of planning to help bind the profession together. We are all one institute, whether in terms of geography or sector. The forces which draw us together are so much greater than those which divide us. We may represent different interests, whether for private clients or for local authorities or for community groups. We may even have different ambitions and attitudes to life. But we all adhere to the same principles, and I find, at least professionally, we're all normally on the same wavelength. But sadly, although we may convince each other about the value of planning or the merits of our plans and proposals, we're not always necessarily effective in getting that message across to others. So the second area where I feel we can help is in raising the profile of planning to society in general. And those in the General Assembly today talked a lot about that. The Institute works really hard in getting the message across. And our presidential team, chief executive and RTPI staff take every opportunity to represent the interests of planning in media. Our social media presence is also rising in leaps and bounds. And we need to look out in the next few days about the news about our 25,000th member. We're getting very close to it now. And I think you may hear something about it only next week. That will be a huge milestone for the Institute, 25,000 members. But significantly, 52% of planners who took part in our recent RTPI membership survey were worried about the image of the profession. And 87% either felt strongly or very strongly that the Institute needs to take a more prominent role in campaigning. For me, that means raising our voice, always being at the forefront of planning issues, and getting our message across to the wider world. And I'm really looking forward to visiting all the regions and UK nations and Ireland over the coming year to give them publicity. I'll be writing a regular blog or diary for members and tentatively, at least at first, venturing into the world of social media. But don't worry, this president will not be posting any provocative tweets. My fire and fury will be kept to myself. And finally, and most importantly, I want to promote a passion for planning and inspire others to become planners. I'm very lucky in that in all these years, I've never once questioned my decision to enter the planning profession. I enjoy my job, I'm interested in what I do, I value the contribution I can make, and I firmly believe that planning can help improve people's lives and create a better society. More important, planning can also help to conserve scarce resources, reduce inequalities, and assist in tackling poverty and help combat climate change. So I want to convey the enthusiasm I have about planning, both to youngsters coming out of school, to encourage them to be the planners of tomorrow, to students on planning courses, whether full-time or part-time, and to young planners already in the profession. In my experience, these are the people with the new ideas. They are more in touch with emerging trends, and above all, they're in connection with the generation coming along behind, which is after all who we're planning for. Our successful Young Planners Conferences, which this year is being held in Nottingham, are a testament to their energy and enthusiasm. And I'm delighted that Luke Coffey, our Young Planner of the Year, is here today, I hope. We have a challenging year ahead. In England, we look forward to a review of our national planning policy framework this spring. In Scotland, there is a new planning bill going through the Scottish Parliament. In Wales, we're undertaking a review of the value of planning. And in Ireland, a new planning framework is emerging. And Northern Ireland is currently adapting to a new local plan system, which they haven't had before. Of course, as Stephen said, Brexit is now overshadowing many of the pressing social and economic issues in our society. Whatever your view about the decision, the RTPI will need to carefully plan for and hopefully influence the outcome of the ultimate Brexit deal. This is vital in terms of funding infrastructure, securing jobs, retaining flexible skills, and ensuring that we maintain high quality environmental standards, and also to ensure that Ireland and Northern Ireland continue to live and function in harmony. 2018 will hopefully be the year that the mist finally lifts and these important issues are properly addressed. Needless to say, I will be leaving our Vice President, Ian Tant, my successor, to sign off the final Brexit deal in 2019. So if I can bring my thoughts to a close with three key points. Firstly, we often marvel at the life-changing discoveries in medical science. Planning is not quite as dramatic as medicine. It may not have the capacity to save lives, but it does have the capacity to change lives. There is an old adage that the operation was successful, but sadly the patient died. Hopefully it doesn't happen too often. But in other words, process often triumphs over product. But in my view, planning is all about getting things done, focusing on outputs and not just inputs. It should not be seen just as a regulatory activity, but as an answer and maybe even a cure for the ills of society. Second, planning is not as visible as engineering or architecture. We may not win awards for iconic buildings or bridges. After all, planning doesn't just focus on the functioning, design and appearance of buildings and structures. It builds on the partnerships between professions to make things happen and create better places. It's about renewal and regeneration and the integration of society, the economy and the environment, what we call sustainable development. And finally, planning may not be as immediate and responsive as politics, but its policies and proposals are often more far-reaching, setting the pattern for years and sometimes decades ahead. We have the ability to absorb a broad range of information and reach, or at least recommend, a decision. We do impact studies to assess the implications of different options, impact studies which actually exist. And believe it or not, yes, some of them are in excruciating detail. It's our job to try and make complex issues simple, not make simple issues complicated. Planning can optimise assets and maximise benefits. That's exactly what planners do. There have been occasions when critics have questioned the value of experts or even the value of planning. Either because it frustrates change or maybe because it promotes change, which people find unwelcome. But the power of planning lies in its impartiality to make a fair, objective and logical decision, not just for the benefit of individuals or companies, but for the benefit of our diverse communities and for society as a whole. Planning is the glue which holds the decision-making process together. It's the oil which smooths the economy, and it's the fuel which facilitates positive change. That's why I spoke in this month's article in The Planner about the positive and creative force within planning. Planning can shape places, support the economy at every level, and make communities more resilient. It's a tough challenge, but we don't become planners to be popular. There are bound to be frustrations, even tensions. But you know, I can't think of a more worthwhile profession to be involved in, and I'm delighted to be leading the Institute during 2018 to promote my passion for planning. Thank you very much.